Here are 7 NBA players that make Shaq look tiny. These players didn't just make it to the best basketball league in the world. They thrived and built impressive careers. Some even reached the Hall of Fame, leaving legacies that extend far beyond the hardwood. Stick around to meet the creme de la creme of the Giant Man Club. Coming in at number 7 is the Dinka Dunker, Manute Bol, born in Turale, South Sudan, on October 16, 1962. Or so the story goes. Hailing from the Dinka tribe, Manute grew to a towering 7 feet 7 inches. Bol's discovery by American coach Don Feely is a legendary tale in itself. Imagine Feely, standing on a hill in Khartoum, spotting Bol on the court, towering like a giant exclamation mark. "Who's that?" he asked the Sudanese players. "That's Manute," they chorused. "Boys," Feely said after a dramatic pause, "from now on, we're playing a different game." Manute Bol, a Dinka tribesman, had embarked on a 6-day, 600-mile journey by train from his village of Gorgrial to Khartoum. He was only 2 years into playing basketball, with the police force in WAU and then with the military in Khartoum. But Bol's physical gifts had already intrigued Feely. He could dunk while standing on tiptoes and touch both sides of the backboard without jumping. Official measurements revealed Bol's standing reach at an incredible 10 feet 5 inches and an arm span of 8 feet 6 inches, the longest in NBA history. And his legs? They looked like 5-foot elongated twigs. As the New York Times aptly put it, they were the spindliest legs to protrude from a pair of nylon shorts. Measured by the Guinness Book of World Records at 7 foot 6 and 3/4 inches, Manute Bol was the tallest player in NBA history at that time. Feely had modest expectations for Bol. "I saw him more as the next Bill Russell than Wilt Chamberlain," he mused. Feely showed Bol which basket to slam balls into and which to bat them away from, and Bol quickly got the hang of it. Convincing Bol to leave Sudan for the US wasn't difficult. He already despised the sun-scorched weather and dusty conditions back home. However, his illiteracy posed a significant challenge in meeting the academic requirements for basketball eligibility, making him ineligible to play for Cleveland State. Despite coming from a prominent family, Manute Bol couldn't read or write. One major hurdle was Manute's lack of a birth certificate. His listed birth date, October 16, 1962, was actually given to him by Cleveland State head coach Kevin Mackey. His real birth date remained a mystery, lost in the sands of time and the jungles of Sudan. Jason Williams once recounted a memorable conversation. "I was counting the scars on his head and asked, 'Manute, what are those scars?' He replied, 'The white man lost my birth certificate in the jungle. So every 5 years I take a rock and slice one across my head.' I was like, all right. But then I looked closer during the next game and thought, Manute Bol is 55 years old. Bol was initially drafted by the San Diego Clippers with the 97th pick in 1983, but the pick was voided because he was under the legal age of 22 for foreigners who hadn't attended college. Manute Bol eventually found his way to the University of Bridgeport, which had an English literary program tailored for foreign students. Being a Division II team, they weren't bogged down by the stringent eligibility rules of Division I schools. In his college debut, Bol dominated, scoring 20 points, grabbing 20 rebounds, and blocking 6 shots. Over his first 4 games, he averaged an impressive 19.8 points, 16.5 rebounds, and 8.5 blocks. When Bol first arrived at Bridgeport, he was treated like a UFO. Sightings were met with disbelief until confirmed. "I thought Coach was joking when he said I was getting replaced by a 7'6" Dinka," recalled Clarence Gordon, the previous season's 6'4" starting center. "Manute was sitting down when I met him, and then he got up and started to unfold." Gordon later recounted, "Manute's 7'7" stature was a spectacle in itself. When Manute walks into Famous Pizza, everyone stops eating," reminisced his former coach Bruce Webster. Despite a losing record, the Purple Knights had dreams of winning the Division II national title. Bridgeport's 1,800-seat gym was packed for every game, and even their intra-squad scrimmages were standing room only. Manute Bol drew crowds like a magnet, packing gyms every game. Even opposing fans couldn't help but cheer for him. Before Bol's arrival, nobody had heard of the University of Bridgeport. But with Bol on the team, they catapulted into the national spotlight, reaching the NCAA Division II Northeast Finals in his single season there. Growing up in Sudan, Manute Bol had a childhood vastly different from his American peers. By the time he reached Bridgeport, he had lost 15 teeth. 5 during a tribal ritual, marking his passage to manhood at 14. Bol admitted he ran away from home twice to avoid these rituals, preferring the look of his teeth, but eventually consented after being mocked for cowardice. He lost another tooth the first time he dunked, when the net caught on one of his molars, and a few more in college when his mouth hit the rim after dunking. Bol's childhood favorite? Fresh cattle milk. He herded cattle growing up in Sudan, where the Dinkas worshipped these animals. "Just don't dare offer him pasteurized milk. Plech," he'd say with disdain. Legend has it that Manute Bol once killed a sleeping lion with a spear to protect his father's cattle. Even by Dinka standards, 7'7" is colossal. Manut's father stood at 6'8", while Mama Bull towered at 6'10". And Grandpa Bull, a staggering 7'10" according to Manute, though he was born too early to be discovered by basketball scouts. Against the advice of friends and advisors, Bull was determined to make it to the NBA to support his family back home. His agent, Frank Catapano, arranged for him to play for the Rhode Island Gulls in the United States Basketball League for $25,000, teaming him up with future NBA players Spud Webb and John Hot Rod Williams. In his first game, Bull blocked an astonishing 16 shots, averaging nearly 13 blocks per game during his USBL stint. Bull's dream came true when the Washington Bullets drafted him in the second round with the 31st pick. That same year, they also drafted Muggsy Bogues, giving the Bullets both the tallest and shortest players in the league. While Manute Bol didn't score or rebound much, his defensive instincts translated well in the NBA. During his rookie season, he led the league in blocks, setting a then record with 397 swats, averaging 5 per game, despite playing only 26 minutes per game. Bol didn't just block shots from bench warmers, he blocked Hall of Famers like Julius Erving, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Michael Jordan. Bol didn't play favorites, everyone was a target. One thing that hindered him from reaching his full potential was a birth defect that left several fingers on his dominant right hand disfigured. This often caused him to miss layups, drop balls, and brick free throws. Before the Splash Brothers were lighting up Golden State, Manute Bol was given the green light to shoot threes by Don Nelson. You could say he was ahead of his time as a big man with the range, even hitting 6 threes in a single half, more than current head coach Steve Kerr. But shot blocking was where Manute made his bread. Despite limited playing time, he led the NBA twice in blocks per game, and remained the only player in NBA history to finish his career with more blocks than points. Despite his rail-thin frame, Bol lasted 10 years and over 600 games in the NBA, a rare feat for a man his size. His secret? Pure cow's milk. Bol reminisced about drinking contests in his younger years in Sudan, where they would see who could drink the most and gain weight. Manute Bol's legacy stretches far beyond the basketball court. He dedicated his latter years to the cause of his homeland, South Sudan, donating most of his $5 million career earnings to help his countrymen. He captured video footage of refugee camps, presented his findings to the State Department, and warned about the rise of Islamic extremism led by the then unknown Osama bin Laden. However, still reeling from the Gulf War, the US was too preoccupied to intervene. A series of misfortunes, including a 3-year house arrest, a brutal campaign trail, and a near-fatal car accident where Bol broke 2 vertebrae and a knee, took a tremendous toll on his health. He was left broken and penniless, all in his quest to help South Sudan achieve peace and independence. Manute Bol passed away on June 19, 2010, from kidney failure and complications from Stevens-Johnson syndrome. However, his efforts were not in vain. South Sudan became an independent state on July 9, 2011. At his memorial service at the Washington National Cathedral, Manute Bol received countless tributes, including a heartfelt one from Senator Sam Brownback of Kansas on the floor of the U.S. Senate. He literally gave his life for his people, Brownback said. He went to Sudan while he was sick, stayed longer than he should have, and likely contracted the illness that took his life while there. He didn't have to do that. Like Manute Bol, George Mursan was an imposing figure at 7'7". Drafted by the Washington Bullets in the 1993 draft with the 30th overall pick, Mursan stood a hair taller than Bol at 7 feet 7.5 inches. Unlike Bol, Mursan's towering height didn't come from tall parents, neither of whom reached 6 feet, but from a pituitary gland disorder called acromegaly. Growing up in Romania, Mursan, like most kids, played football, but a trip to the dentist changed his destiny. His dentist, who doubled as a referee, couldn't help but notice his height and asked how old he was. When Mursan replied that he was 15, the dentist suggested he try basketball and invited him to learn more about the game. Within a few months, Mursan was part of a team. Being a gigantic 6'8" teenager came with its challenges. George described himself as weak and uncoordinated, but he had 2 things going for him: his extraordinary height and his ability to listen well. Mursan first showcased his skills professionally with Cluj University in Romania, where he helped to win the national championship in 1992. Seeking greener pastures, he then moved to France to play for Pau Orthez. His reported $300,000 salary not only marked his rise, but also allowed him to buy his parents a home with electricity and running water. In 1993, Mursan's impressive play continued, leading Pau Orthez to a French league title, further solidifying his status as a basketball prospect. U.S. scouts noticed Mursan's towering height. The Trailblazers were so intrigued that they sent a private jet to bring him stateside for a closer look before the draft. After a game in a small Hungarian town, Mursan endured a 17-hour bus ride to Bucharest, then flew 16 hours on the Trailblazers jet through Iceland and Minneapolis, finally landing in Portland. There, he showcased his skills for 4 different NBA teams. For a kid from a small town in Europe, this was a huge opportunity. A golden ticket out of poverty, much like many other European prospects dreamed of. Murasan's dream became a reality when the Washington Bullets selected him with the 30th pick in the 1993 draft. However, transitioning from the French Pro League to the NBA wasn't easy. First, there was his mobility, or lack thereof. Jim Lynam, former GM of the Philadelphia 76ers, remarked, "I thought his lack of mobility was insurmountable." Then there was his conditioning and strength. When he joined the Bullets, Murasan struggled to run the court without losing his breath and couldn't do a single push-up. These issues limited his playing time, and adjusting to the faster, more physical NBA game often left him in foul trouble. Murasan faced significant medical challenges, including a large benign tumor pressing against his pituitary gland, which caused his extraordinary growth. After being drafted, he underwent major surgery that risked blindness, followed by radiation treatments to shrink the tumor and offer him a normal life expectancy. Lastly, there was the language barrier. Murasan spoke barely any English, aside from a few choice cuss words and the phrase, "I love you, this game." But Murasan's work ethic and determination helped him overcome seemingly impossible odds. He tirelessly worked with the Bullets' strength and conditioning coach, Dennis Householder, to transform his body. Initially viewed as a project during his rookie season, Murasan was seen as too slow and out of shape to play long stretches. However, by his second season, he nearly doubled his scoring average to 10 points per game and shot an impressive 56% from the field. The following season was his best, with Murasan averaging 14.5 points and 2.3 blocks per game, earning the Most Improved Player award. Unfortunately, injuries soon took their toll, and his body struggled to endure the demands of an 82-game schedule. After winning the Most Improved Player award, Murasan played one more full season with the Washington Bullets. However, he missed the entire 1997-98 season due to foot problems and a strained tendon in his ankle. He would only play 31 more NBA games with the New Jersey Nets. After retiring from the NBA, Murasan returned to France for one final season with his old team, Pau Orthez, winning the French League Championship. Throughout his 10-year basketball career, Georges Murasan proudly wore number 77, a nod to his towering height. Next on the list at number 5 is Shawn Bradley, who stands at a towering 7'6". Unlike Georges Murasan, Bradley's incredible height wasn't due to a growth disorder, but rather good genetics. His father, Reiner, was 6'8", and his mother, Teresa, stood 6 feet tall. Bradley also differed from Manute Bol and Georges Murasan in another way. He was a multi-sport standout in high school. While Bol and Murasan came to basketball relatively late, Bradley excelled not only in basketball, but also in baseball and football, making him a well-rounded athlete from the start. A genetics test in 2018 confirmed that Bradley's towering height wasn't due to any physical or genetic disorders. Instead, he inherited a natural but extremely rare combination of thousands of genetic variants that determine human height. Bradley's true passion was basketball, a fitting love given that he stood at 7'5" by his junior year. During his time at Emory High School, his team won 2 state championships, boasting an impressive 68-4 record. Not only did Bradley lead his team to victory, but he also earned numerous accolades. He was All-State 3 times and twice named MVP, solidifying his status as a top high school basketball prospect. By his senior season, Bradley was averaging a near triple-double, 25 points, 17 rebounds, and 9 blocks per game. He held Utah State records for blocks in a single game, 18, a season, 209, and a career, 605. With such impressive stats and accolades, college offers flooded in from powerhouses like Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, Arizona State, and Syracuse. However, Bradley chose Brigham Young University, primarily because of his faith. He had always wanted to go on a missionary trip, and BYU provided the perfect opportunity to do so after his freshman season. His high school coach, Todd Jeffs, had hoped Bradley would choose one of the bigger programs to better prepare for the NBA, but Bradley's commitment to his faith guided his decision. After a successful freshman season at BYU, where he averaged 14.8 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 5.2 blocks per game, Bradley faced a tough decision about his mission trip. It wasn't easy for him. He admitted to much prayer and fasting during this period of reflection. A visit from his bishop ultimately changed his perspective and gave him the clarity and determination to follow through. Another major decision awaited Bradley after his missionary trip: go pro or stay at BYU. He chose to go pro, lured by an ethical opportunity to earn millions, as he put it, and to avoid the risk of a career-threatening injury derailing his dreams. This decision didn't sit well with BYU fans. Bradley received hate mail, and his parents even got death threats. It was crazy. But he pushed through and was selected with the 2nd overall pick by the Sixers in the 1993 NBA draft. As the 2nd overall pick, enormous expectations surrounded Bradley. Standing at 7'6", he wasn't just tall, he was skilled and athletic. qualities of a potential game-changing big man. However, despite his impressive profile, Bradley's NBA career was unfortunately marred by inconsistencies. Bradley occasionally dazzled with flashes of brilliance, once posting an impressive stat line of 22 points, 22 rebounds, and 13 blocks. This made him only the 5th player in NBA history to record a 20-20-10 game in points, rebounds, and blocks, joining the ranks of legends like Hakeem Olajuwon, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Elvin Hayes, and Shaquille O'Neal. Despite his potential, Bradley struggled to find consistency and was traded multiple times throughout his career. He moved from Philadelphia to New Jersey, and then from New Jersey to Dallas, where he had his best stretch of basketball, teaming up with Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash. If there was one area where Shawn Bradley truly excelled, it was blocking shots. He led the league once, averaging 3.4 blocks per game during the 1996-97 season, and finished his 12-year career with an impressive 2.5 blocks per game average. However, his maddening inconsistency and tendency to get dunked on left a lasting impression. So much so that ESPN released a 30 for 30 documentary on him titled Posterized. While Shawn Bradley was a basketball star early in his career, the next giant on our list had a very different start. Initially, he wasn't even interested in playing basketball, and later on was a little used reserve who averaged just 1.8 points at UCLA. Coming in at number 4 is Mark Eaton, standing tall at 7'4". Despite his late start, Eaton became one of the best defensive centers in NBA history. Mark Eaton's journey to the NBA was as unconventional as they come. Growing up in Southern California, Eaton was already a towering 6'8" in high school. With a 6'9" father and a 6'1" mother, his impressive height was certainly in the genes. However, basketball wasn't his first love. Eaton struggled with the sport due to his lack of coordination and faced constant teasing and ridicule because of his height. This social barrier made it difficult for him to embrace the game early on. Eaton's high school coach was baffled by his uncoordinated big man and relegated him to the end of the bench throughout his high school career. By his senior year, Eaton had all but given up on basketball and set his sights on becoming an auto mechanic. He attended trade school at Arizona Automotive Institute for a year before returning to Southern California to work as a diesel mechanic, making $20,000 a year, a trade he knew well from working on engines with his father. But one encounter changed his life forever. While Eaton was busy trying to sell a service job, perhaps a tune-up or brake job, a college assistant basketball coach, Tom Lubin, happened to notice the towering 7-footer. Intrigued, the coach approached and asked why Eaton wasn't playing basketball. Annoyed, Eaton initially rebuffed him, saying, "Do you want your car fixed or not? Let's stop with all the dribble about being tall and playing basketball. Every single person that comes into my shop asks me that same question." Determined, the coach returned the next day, claiming he needed Eaton to check a rattle under his hood. But his real intention was to get Eaton talking about basketball. He even brought a pair of basketball shoes, hoping to spark a conversation and perhaps a new direction for Eaton's towering potential. The coach, persistent in his mission, finally said, "I know some things about basketball that you don't. I have techniques specifically designed for big guys like you. Give me 30 minutes on the court, and if you don't like what you see, I'll leave you alone and you can get back to your life." Eaton, somewhat resigned, replied, "Finally, there's an end to this." Long story short, resignation turned to intrigue. The coach's dedication and knowledge of the game, particularly for centers, sparked something in him. He learned the fundamentals and saw how other big men improved and had lengthy careers. This training paid off, and Eaton became a solid player for Cyprus. 4 years removed from college, he was eligible for the draft and was initially picked by the Phoenix Suns in the 5th round in 1979. However, he chose to return to school, eventually leading Cyprus to a California Junior College national title in 1980. Eaton then transferred to UCLA, but playing time was scarce. He played sparingly under head coach Larry Brown, with smaller centers like Darren Day and Cliff Pruitt, both 6'7", getting more minutes. He was too slow for their fast-paced system. The following season brought even more frustration for Eaton. Under new coach Larry Farmer, he barely saw any court time, logging a mere 41 minutes all year. According to Eaton, he felt cheated after working so hard and not causing any problems, yet still struggling for playing time. Then another encounter shifted his mindset. During a summer pickup game at UCLA, Eaton was frustrated by his inability to keep up with the fast-paced action. As he hunched over, he felt a large hand on his shoulder. It was none other than Wilt Chamberlain, who had recently retired and lived nearby in Bel Air. Chamberlain's words changed Eaton's basketball trajectory forever. "First of all, you will never catch that man. More importantly, it's not your job," Chamberlain told him. He then positioned Eaton under the basket and said, "You see this basket behind you? Your job is to stop players from getting here. Your job is to make them miss their shot, grab the rebound, throw it to the guard, and let them score at the other end. Your job is to cruise up to half court and see what's going on." Little did he know that that conversation planted the seeds for Eaton to become the defensive powerhouse he was to be. After finishing his career at UCLA, only a few NBA teams saw potential in Mark Eaton. He received offers from international teams in Israel and Monte Carlo, but it was the Utah Jazz that recognized his potential as a dominant defender, selecting him with the 72nd pick in the 4th round. Utah's coach and general manager, Frank Layden, discouraged Eaton from signing in Europe. He offered him a 5-year contract with the first year guaranteed at $45,000, totaling $570,000. Eaton later credited Layden's belief in him, appreciating that Layden took a chance on an unproven talent like me and allowed him the space to make mistakes and find his footing. The rest, as they say, is history. During his rookie season, Eaton averaged over 3 blocks per game despite playing less than 20 minutes. He led the league in blocks in 4 different seasons, including a year where he averaged 5.6 blocks per game, a record that still stands. Eaton's career average of 3.51 blocks per game remains the highest of all time. He won Defensive Player of the Year twice and was named to the All-Defensive Team 5 times. With Eaton anchoring the defense, Utah made 10 straight playoff appearances starting in his 2nd season, kicking off a streak of 20 consecutive playoff runs. Remarkably durable despite his size, Eaton once appeared in 338 consecutive games. However, back problems eventually forced him to retire after the 1993 season. Eaton retired as the 2nd leading shot blocker of all time, behind only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with 3,064 rejections. Not bad for a college benchwarmer at UCLA who barely saw the court. Eaton's legacy extends far beyond the basketball court. He became a motivational speaker, best-selling author, and mentor to future Utah big men like Rudy Gobert. Tragically, on May 28, 2021, Eaton passed away during a routine bike ride and did not return home. The Utah Jazz remembered him as an enduring figure in our franchise history, who had a significant impact in the community after his basketball career. Mark Eaton will be deeply missed, but his legacy will continue to inspire. Like Mark Eaton, Ralph Sampson stands at a towering 7'4" and played in the 1980s. However, unlike Eaton, Sampson was a high school basketball prodigy, college basketball's most recruited prospect ever. Ralph Sampson seemed destined to play basketball. By the time he reached high school, he was already one of the most skilled big men the game had ever seen. Before the term unicorn was coined, Sampson epitomized it. At 7'4", he was athletic, quick, possessed soft hands, and had a high basketball IQ. These attributes earned him a stellar high school career at Harrisonburg High School, where he won 2 state championships and averaged 30 points, 19 rebounds, and 7 blocked shots during his senior year. Sampson took his talents to the University of Virginia, where he stayed all 4 years and earned his BA degree. During his collegiate career, he became one of the most decorated players of all time, winning the Naismith College Player of the Year award 3 times and 2 Wooden Awards. The University of Virginia won the NIT title in 1980 and reached the NCAA Final Four in 1981. Sampson considered leaving after his junior year, but decided against it to avoid being drafted by the Clippers, who, along with the Lakers, were in the hunt for the top draft pick. He returned to school for his senior year. Sampson finally declared for the draft the following season and was selected first overall by the Houston Rockets in 1983. He didn't disappoint during his rookie season, averaging 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game. However, these impressive numbers didn't translate into a winning season, as the Rockets finished with a 29-53 record. This did, however, land them the #1 pick in the next draft, which turned out to be Hakeem Olajuwon, forming the formidable Twin Towers. Sampson had his best season in his sophomore year, averaging 22 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game, earning a spot on the All-NBA second team. The Twin Towers made it as far as the NBA Finals in 1986, but were defeated by the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Celtics coach Casey Jones was impressed, calling the Olajuwon and Sampson duo the new monsters on the block, but unfortunately, that was the peak of their success. Sampson's promising career was cut short by 3 major knee injuries, which he rushed to recover from. He ended up playing 10 seasons, only appearing in 456 regular season games and 38 playoff games. Despite not reaching his full potential, Ralph Sampson's legacy is undeniable. In 2012, he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame as a player, a testament to his impact on the game. Additionally, the Houston Rockets and their fans honored him by naming him to the Decade Team of the 1980s. Coming in at number 2 in one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history is Arvydas Sabonis. Standing 7'3" and nearly 300 pounds, Sabonis didn't play like your typical big man. Not only was he massive, but he could also dribble, pass, and shoot. He was the predecessor to the modern big man, a pioneer before Dirk Nowitzki, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Nikola Jokic. Arvydas Sabonis had a game ahead of his time. Grant Hill once said Sabonis was like a point guard in a center's body. Donnie Nelson described him as a 7'4" version of Dirk Nowitzki. Bill Walton, who watched a young 19-year-old Sabonis play, summed it up perfectly. He could do everything. He had the skills of Larry Bird and Pete Maravich. He had the athleticism of Kareem, and he could shoot the three-point shot. He could pass and run the floor, dribble. We should have carried out a plan in the early 1980s to kidnap him and bring him back right then. Unfortunately for basketball fans, we didn't see the best of Sabonis due to political circumstances during the Cold War. Translation: the US and the Soviet Union weren't friends. Born in Kaunas in the former Lithuanian SSR, Soviet Union, Arvydas Sabonis first picked up basketball at 13. By 15, he was already a member of the Soviet junior national team, and just 2 years later, he joined the Soviet national team. Sabonis began his professional career in 1981 with Club Zalgiris, quickly establishing himself as one of Europe's finest. His accolades are numerous: 6-time Eurostar Player of the Year, 2-time Mr. Europa, 1985 Eurobasket MVP, 2-time Spanish League MVP, 3-time USSR League Champion, 2-time ACB League Champion, and the list goes on. The world got its first glimpse of Sabonis in 1982, when the Soviet national team toured the United States, playing against collegiate teams. They ultimately won the Olympic gold medal in the 1988 Olympics, beating a U.S. team in the semifinals that featured collegiate players, including future NBA stars David Robinson and Danny Manning. That game had huge ramifications. It was the first time Team USA didn't reach the gold medal round, a loss that ultimately led to the formation of the legendary Dream Team in 1992. Sabonis was initially drafted by the Atlanta Hawks as the 77th overall pick in the 1985 draft, but the pick was voided because he was under 21. The Portland Trail Blazers selected him with the 26th overall pick the following year despite a devastating Achilles injury. However, the Soviet authorities did not allow Sabonis to play for Portland, but allowed him to rehab in the United States. Former Trail Blazers star Clyde Drexler often lamented what might have been if Sabonis had played in the NBA during his prime. We would have had 4, 5, or 6 titles, guaranteed. He was that good. He could pass, shoot three-pointers, had a great post game, and dominated the paint, Drexler remarked. Fast forward nearly a decade, and the Trail Blazers finally brought Sabonis over to play for the team. Upon his physical, the team doctor quipped that Sabonis' injuries would have qualified him for a handicapped parking slot based on X-ray alone. In a 2011 interview, Sabonis himself reflected on his career, lamenting that overtraining by the Soviet national program was a major factor in his first Achilles tendon injury back in 1986. Due to the Cold War situation and a grueling playing schedule, he never had enough time to properly recuperate. Another factor in his physical decline was the Soviet authorities rushing him back from Achilles tendon surgery to rejoin the USSR lineup for the 1988 Olympics. Due to overuse and being rushed back from surgery, Sabonis developed chronic knee, ankle, and groin issues. These lingering injuries cast doubt on how his game would translate to the NBA. But Sabonis did not disappoint. In his rookie season, he averaged a respectable 14.5 points and 8.1 rebounds in just 24 minutes per game, earning all rookie team honors. He also finished as the runner-up for both Rookie of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year awards. Sabonis played 7 seasons with the Portland Trail Blazers, but couldn't beat the Shaq and Kobe-led Los Angeles Lakers in the 2000 Western Conference Finals, losing to the eventual champions in 7 games. Many have lamented what could have been with Arvydas Sabonis. When he joined the Portland Trail Blazers at 30 years old, he had already endured 2 ruptured Achilles tendons and 2 bad knees. Physically, he was a shell of his former self. In the Book of Basketball, Bill Simmons described the Portland version of Sabonis as lumbering up and down the court in what looked to be concrete Nikes, and ranking just behind Artis Gilmore on the moving like a mummy scale. Yet, Sabonis' basketball IQ and court savvy compensated for his physical limitations, allowing him to thrive in the latter part of his career. He retired from professional basketball in 2005 after winning his last EuroLeague MVP. In 2011, he was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Arvydas Sabonis was a true trailblazer, paving the way for future generations of European stars in the NBA. His legacy opened the doors for names like Dirk Nowitzki, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Nikola Jokic. Topping our list at number 1 is another trailblazer, Yao Ming, perhaps the greatest Asian player ever to lace up basketball sneakers. At 7'6", Yao towers over his peers, including Shaq. But even more mind-blowing is how he came to be. Yao Ming was allegedly a product of China's Soviet-style sports system, designed to boost national pride by producing elite athletes for the Olympics. According to the book Operation Yao Ming, his father, the 6'7" Yao Zhiyuan, was encouraged to marry the 6'3" Feng Fengdi, both former professional basketball players. Yao's mom was also reportedly a feared Red Guard during the murderous Cultural Revolution. Chinese officials had long targeted Yao's grandfather, the tallest man in Shanghai. But when they couldn't locate him, they tracked down his son instead. When Yao was born, he tipped the scales at 11 pounds and measured 58 centimeters, twice the weight and height of the average Chinese newborn. Word spread quickly, and people knew he wasn't ordinary. By age 8, he was already taller than the average Chinese 8-year-old. Using growth-predicting manuals, Chinese doctors estimated that Yao would grow to 7'3". But they were wrong. Yao blew past that prediction and grew to 7'6". Despite his towering height, Yao initially despised basketball and dreamed of becoming an archaeologist. However, at the age of 8, against his parents' wishes, he was sent to a sports school in Shuhui, where he adhered to 3 mandates: eating, sleeping, and 6 hours of intense training. His daily routine consisted of vigorous and repetitive basketball drills, and he reportedly was given a steady stream of mysterious concoctions to boost his height. By the time he was 12, Yao had already reached 6'6". Yao stayed in sporting school until he was 13 and tried out for the Shanghai Sharks junior team. He was accepted but needed to practice 10 hours daily in exchange for it. After 4 years on the junior team, Yao joined the senior team, where he won the CBA Rookie of the Year award, averaging 10 points and 8 rebounds per game. However, the following season, Yao broke his foot for the second time, which, according to him, reduced his vertical leap by 4 to 6 inches. After recovering from injury, Yao led the Sharks to 2 consecutive CBA Finals appearances, although they fell short both times to the Bai Rockets, led by Wang Zheji. Joining the NBA crossed Yao's mind at one point, and the Shanghai Sharks were willing to release him, but at an astronomical cost. The Sharks' general manager, Li Yao-min, had previously attempted to enter Yao into the 1999 NBA draft. However, the stipulation was that Yao had to sign a contract with Evergreen Sports Inc., which would be entitled to a third of his income, an arrangement that would also benefit Li financially. These demands temporarily ruined Yao's NBA dreams. Li revealed that the NBA offered $1 million for Yao's release, but the CBA expected more. "Yao Ming is China's Michael Jordan," Li declared. "We cultivated him from childhood, made him what he is today. So if we're being asked to give him up, don't you think we should get a high price?" The Shanghai Sharks also wanted authorization from the NBA to broadcast games in China, open basketball clinics, and provide financial support to construct new basketball courts. These negotiations dragged into the 2001 NBA draft. Ultimately, the Shanghai Sharks didn't release Yao, claiming the CBA was not ready to lose a star. Furthermore, they stated that he was too immature to play in the NBA, and he needed to win the team's first championship. Heartbroken, Yao reflected, "Once your heart gets broken, you can grow up. It felt like my dream had passed me by." During that period, I was very depressed. When I faced the TV camera, I smiled, but that was a cover-up. This disappointment motivated Yao for the next season. He averaged 32 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 blocks per game, leading the team to yet another finals appearance. This time, Yao didn't disappoint. He dominated, scoring 45 points and grabbing 22 rebounds, leading the Sharks to victory. An elated Yi announced at the press conference, "Now I would like to deliver a piece of good news. The club will no longer keep Yao Ming from going to the NBA. This is because Yao has opened the door to the NBA with his hard work." However, Yao's dream hit another roadblock as authorities stipulated that Chinese players in the NBA must turn over 50% of their earnings to the state. The stalemate reached a boiling point when Yao's mother threatened that Yao Ming would no longer exist in Chinese basketball if no agreement was reached. She said, "If we don't reach an agreement, Yao Ming will never play basketball again. He will go to university, and that will be the end of his career. That's okay because that's what we wanted from the start." In retaliation, the CBA barred Yao from traveling to the US for the draft, while Yao's representatives threatened to reveal the truth with a public statement. Ultimately, the Shanghai Sharks gave in, and Yao Ming was drafted by the Houston Rockets with the #1 pick, the first international player who was selected with the top pick. Despite his success in the CBA, several media members were skeptical. Bill Simmons and Dick Vitale predicted he would fail, and Charles Barkley famously declared he would kiss Kenny Smith's ass if Yao scored more than 19 points in any of his rookie season games. Yao started slowly, averaging just 4 points in his first 7 games. However, he had a breakout performance against the Lakers on November 17th, scoring 20 points and prompting Charles Barkley to kiss a donkey's buttocks brought in by Kenny Smith. Yao finished his rookie season averaging 13.5 points and 8.2 rebounds, and he came in second for Rookie of the Year behind Amari Stoudemire. He was also voted into the All-Star game after the NBA opened voting in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Chinese for the first time. He was an Iron Man in his first 3 seasons, only missing 2 out of 246 games. Yao's durability took a hit in his 4th season when he developed osteomyelitis in his left big toe, requiring surgery and causing him to miss 21 games. The following season, he broke a bone in his left foot, sidelining him for 6 months. Sadly, he was never fully healthy again, except for the 2008-09 season when he played 77 games. Foot and knee injuries ultimately limited Yao to just 486 games over 8 years. A consequence of year-round basketball, his body didn't have time to heal without an off-season to recuperate since he was obligated to participate in various FIBA events for his country. Yet, whenever he was available, Yao delivered, averaging over 20 points per game for 3 consecutive seasons with the Rockets. Yao also led China to several Olympic appearances, forming a formidable trio with fellow 7-footers Wang Zhiji and Menk Batir, dubbed the Walking Great Wall. With Yao at the helm, China dominated Asian basketball, winning 3 consecutive FIBA Asia Cup gold medals, the 2003 and 2005 FIBA Asian Championships, and winning the most valuable player in all these tournaments. However, injuries forced Yao to retire from the NBA after only 8 seasons. He was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, along with Allen Iverson and Shaquille O'Neal, in 2017. His jersey number 11 was retired by the Houston Rockets. After retiring from the NBA, Yao didn't slow down. In 2009, he bought his former team, the Shanghai Sharks, which was on the verge of bankruptcy the following season. In 2011, he enrolled in the Antai College of Economics and Management of Shanghai, Jiaotong University, and earned his degree in economics after 7 years. In 2013, Yao joined the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, where he spread socialist ideologies despite not being affiliated with any of China's communist parties. While Yao was one of the greatest Asian basketball players ever, he was a product of a socialist system aimed to bring glory to his homeland through international sports. Nonetheless, Yao's success ignited a basketball revolution in China and across Asia, inspiring a new generation of young Asian players to dream of making it to the NBA.